Welcome to FoodBite. In this guide, you will learn how to host your API on an AWS EC2 server. Before proceeding, make sure all local development changes are completed. This guide covers setting up the Node.js API, self-hosted MongoDB, domain linking with Namecheap, SSL installation using Let's Encrypt, and making the API production ready. Sign into your AWS account, open the AWS dashboard, navigate to the EC2 service, and click on the Launch Instance button. On the EC2 instance setup page, give your instance a name and select the OS type. We will use Ubuntu. Choose a free tier eligible instance type. For testing, we'll use T3.micro. Make sure you've selected your preferred region before creating the instance. Create a new key pair if you don't already have one, RSA or ED25519. For macOS and Linux, download the .pem file and keep it safe. In the network settings, enable Allow SSH traffic, allow HTTP traffic from the Internet, and allow HTTPS traffic from the Internet, then click Launch Instance. After clicking Launch Instance, AWS will take a few moments to set up the server. Once it's ready, the instance status will change to the running. It is recommended to assign an elastic IP to your EC2 instance so the public IP address remains static, especially for production use. However, for testing purposes, we will use the default public IPv4 for address provided by AWS. Once the EC2 instance is ready, we can proceed to set up the server environment. To do this, connect to the instance using SSH with your .pem key file. In this guide, we will use the default public IPv4 address for demonstration, but for production, you must use an elastic IP address. Please follow the steps carefully. If you're unable to connect via SSH using your terminal, you can use the default AWS EC2 browser-based SSH console instead. Once connected, update your server packages first. Use the following commands to keep the system up to date. Make sure to use sudo, as AWS SSH access requires elevated permissions. Now let's install Node.js on the server. Use the provided command to install Node.js and follow the instructions carefully to complete the setup. Do not skip any steps during the setup process. After installation, verify that Node.js and npm are installed correctly. Also enable and install Yarn Package Manager for the project. Next, set up MongoDB as a self-hosted database on the server. You can skip this step if you are using MongoDB Atlas. Please follow the commands and instructions carefully to install and configure MongoDB. After installing MongoDB, start the service and enable it to run automatically on server boot. Once done, verify that MongoDB is installed and running using the provided command. Next, secure your MongoDB database. If you're using MongoDB Atlas, you can skip this step. For a self-hosted database, allow access only from your server's IP address. By default, your home IP may be added. If not, update the configuration file using the provided command. Save changes with Ctrl+O, press Enter, then exit with Ctrl+X. Now, create an admin user for your MongoDB database to use in the API project. Save the username and password safely, and avoid using special characters in the password. After adding the admin user, enable security in the MongoDB configuration file. Follow the instructions carefully. To save changes, press Ctrl+O, then Enter, and exit with Ctrl+X. After updating the configuration, verify that the changes have been applied successfully. Restart the MongoDB service to apply the configuration changes. Next, upload your API code to the EC2 server. The safest method is to use a private GitHub repository. First, install Git on your EC2 server. From the GitHub dashboard, click on a new repository and give your repository a name. Set the repository visibility to private for confidentiality, leave the other settings as default, and click the Create Repository button. Before uploading code, make sure your GitHub personal access token is ready. If prompted, use your GitHub username and the token as your password. If you don't have a token, generate one via GitHub profile then. Settings. Then Developer Settings. Then Personal Access Tokens. Then create Classic Token. Give it repo access, set a duration of 30 to 90 days, and keep it safe for future use. Now, follow the instructions to upload your local API code to the GitHub repository. Make sure to follow each step carefully and confirm that the repository is set as private. After uploading the code to GitHub, verify that all files are correct. Ensure that the .env file was not pushed and that the repository is set to private. Now, upload the API code to your EC2 server by cloning the GitHub repository. Copy the repository link and, from the server SSH terminal, run git clone. If prompted for authentication, use your GitHub username and personal access token as the password. Navigate to your project directory on the server and install the Node.js dependencies using npm install or yarn install. Next, create a .environment file in the root of your API code using the .environment.example file. Use the provided command to generate the .environment file. Open the .env file using the nano editor. Update the variables as needed, such as the port number, JWT tokens, and other project-specific settings. Now, add your MongoDB connection URL to the .env file. Replace the placeholders with your username and password. If using MongoDB Atlas, include your connection string and database name. Add your MongoDB connection URL in the .env file. Save the changes with Ctrl+O, press Enter, then exit with Ctrl+X, and verify that your updates are correct. In this step, add your Firebase service account JSON file to src fcm_keys service account.json for push notifications and other Firebase services. If you're not using it yet, you can comment out the related code, but we recommend using the Firebase service account. Add your Firebase service account credentials and paste them into service account.json. Save the file and verify that the credentials are added correctly. Go to the root of your project and install PM2 using npm install gpm2. PM2 is a process manager for Node.js that helps run your app continuously, manage logs, and automatically restart the app if it crashes. Now, you can start your API using yarn start or npm run start. If you see any error messages in the logs, recheck all steps and fix any issues before proceeding to the next steps. Now our API is running on the EC2 server, but it isn't accessible publicly yet. We will use Nginx to serve and manage access to our API. Nginx is a web server and reverse proxy that helps route traffic, handle load balancing, and secure your API. Follow these steps carefully to install and configure Nginx on your EC2 server. For this demo, we will use the EC2 default public IPv for address. For production, always use an elastic IP to ensure a static and reliable IP address. Enable your API service in Nginx, check the configuration syntax, and restart Nginx. You can now access your API using the EC2 public IPv for address. For this demo, use HTTP only. If the API success message doesn't appear on your IP address, wait a few moments and recheck the steps. Also, verify that your API is running with PM2 list. If not, start it using yarn start or npm start. Once your API is working on the public IPv for address, we can proceed with domain setup. Accessing the API via IP is not ideal, so we'll use a demo domain from Namecheap and connect it to our EC2 server. 2 DNS records will be added in Namecheap. Please follow the instructions carefully. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Once Nginx and the Namecheap domain DNS are set up, you can access your API using your domain. Please wait a few moments for DNS propagation and check using HTTP only or in a private browser window. The final step is to set up a free SSL certificate on your EC2 server using Let's Encrypt. Follow the instructions carefully to install SSL on your domain. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Please follow the instructions carefully to avoid any configuration issues. Once SSL is installed and auto-renewal is activated, verify the Nginx configuration. The SSL will be automatically applied to your domain. Restart Nginx to apply changes and check your domain with SSL. Make sure your API is running by checking PM2 list. If it's not running, start it with yarn start or npm start. You can now access your API via HTTPS using your domain. The SSL certificate is active and the API is ready for production use. Use this API URL in your admin panel and Flutter projects.